Finnely.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I don't have any problem with the regulations either. I have a problem with the ordinance. And I do think the regulations could be tweaked a little bit so as not to poke the oil and gas industry in the eye. That's all I was trying to say. I don't think it makes any sense to spend money for lawsuits when we could spend that money monitoring our air and water. I'd much rather spend that money on monitoring our air and water than in court. I just am litigation adverse. I don't think it's a good use of tax money. I don't think that it buys us anything. I think if we can work out these other issues with our memorandum of agreements with our operators, we get everything we want, and it doesn't cost the taxpayers a dime.
Councilmember Witt. Councilmember Finnely.
I have some questions as well. Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I had a lot of questions, and I talked to Eugene over the weekend, but more came up, and I wasn't able to get a hold of him. And in other jurisdictions, Eugene, where they've received a letter similar to the one we got from the Attorney General, what did those other communities do?
Mayor and Councilmember Finnely, Eugene Ney, City Attorney. Most of the other communities reevaluated their approach to regulation of oil and gas industries. El Paso County went forth and adopted a significantly reduced version of their regulations, preserving their water quality monitoring section, which garnered more letters from the AG and eventually led to the current negotiations for an IGA on water quality monitoring.
Okay. Also, in the letter from the Attorney General, it talks about, let me just read this here. The city can accomplish its objectives through the local government designee program, and then it goes on to say the COGCC encourages the city to consider whether a memorandum of understanding or intergovernmental agreement would be beneficial. Have we pursued those avenues?
We have had preliminary discussions with the COGCC regarding an IGA for local inspections. It's staff opinions that the water quality monitoring IGA that El Paso County is working on is not protective of the community and has not pursued that avenue. And
could we accomplish our recommended standards through use of a memorandum of agreement with the operators?
That is up to the operators to agree, mutually agree to the terms of a memorandum of understanding, or currently we're working with Top Operating on a surface use agreement. Those negotiations are ongoing, so our experience is currently evolving.
Okay. But we haven't tried to do a memorandum of understanding with the COGCC.
We have had preliminary discussions on the local inspection. They term it as an IGA. I think it's relatively the same thing. We have also reached out to a broader operator group, have not had much of a response or interest in beginning those discussions.
Is it your opinion that, as written, this ordinance as written would result in us having to go to court?
That's not up to me.
Is that your opinion?
My opinion is the items that are in the ordinance are within local jurisdiction to regulate, and therefore are aligned with the current case law on preemption.
Okay, so the issues that the Attorney General brought up are not a concern to you?
They certainly are a concern. You get a letter like that from the Attorney General's office, certainly catches an attorney's attention, but I've had numerous conversations with Assistant Attorney General Jake Matter. We choose to agree to disagree on certain items. I have what I think are legitimate arguments why they are within local jurisdiction, and he has counter arguments.
In that Attorney General's letter, have we changed anything in our draft regulations to make them more compliant with these issues?
Yes, we have, and I am items F, G, and H. We made the changes as suggested by the AG's office on the hazardous materials, the designated outside activity areas, and berm inspections.
Okay, but the other issues the Attorney General has, you don't feel are would warrant a trip to court?
That's not up to me to decide. I think those are legitimate areas for a local jurisdiction to regulate in.
All right. The other problem that I had is with the ordinance itself and the preamble, and I've talked to you and others about it. For example, it references the recent NOAA study, or the NOAA thing in Erie. The city of Erie hired a company that did a report, the Quality Environmental Professional Associates, did a scientific analysis and health impact of propane levels in ambient air data for Erie, Colorado. In that study, which was done in February of this year, it states that the small seasonal sampling period and limited data set that was used is not adequate to assess conditions. The data is wind direction dependent and not accounted for. Data is qualitatively but not statistically reviewed, which limits the author's ability to draw appropriate conclusions. The emissions inventory does not directly reflect air data. The data as presented are limited and not reliable in terms of the source of the VOCs. And it's quite lengthy, and I could read it all, but I have a problem with referencing something that is bad science. And I can't vote for this because of that reason. I would have to remove all of those references to studies that I have all these things, and I'm not an attorney, and I found all these things that say these things are not good science. I have a problem with that being in our ordinance. So I would remove it. What I would do, I am litigation adverse. I haven't made that a secret. Colorado has the most stringent rules for oil and gas. They're not perfect. They haven't worked with our rider well. No one can deny that. But I think we need to look at a memorandum of understanding with the COGCC. We need to look at the local government designee process. We need to look at the memorandums of agreement with TOP and any other operator that might come to our community. And if we're inundated with oil and gas development, like Erie was, we need to look at additional resources to monitor and enforce the state rules for COGCC. I can't vote for this as it is, which is too bad because I really wanted to, but with those things in it, I cannot. I would move to remove that portion of the ordinance.